lengthy decline of the Green Bay Packers ended during the dismal season of '71, as the new head coach Dan Devine laid his careful plans to reinvigorate a failing pass defense, to improve the kicking game, and to return the squad to the fundamentals of winning in the way Green Bay had always won, by discipline and gut pride. And even as some scoffed, Coach Devine approached the 1972 season fully believing that the Pack would soon be back. On opening day in Cleveland, the Packers won a surprisingly easy victory. The off-season trade for number 36 MacArthur Lane paid immediate dividends, and it was apparent that the Green Bay attack was rolling on stronger treads. Scott Hunter salted the victory with 2 touchdowns to Rich McGeorge. But McGeorge would catch no more touchdowns in '72, for both he and the great guard Gail Gillingham were soon lost for the season with injuries. At such a cost, the Packers' appetite for victory was tested early.
In Cleveland's Municipal Stadium, with the song and dance dress rehearsals behind them, the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers, 2 dynastic powers in decline, squared off in search of a future as agreeable as the past. Green Bay's future began looking green and golden when their #1 draft pick, Willie Buchanan, picked off this Bill Nelson aerial on the 3rd play of the game. The Pack's second-year quarterback, Scott Hunter, then found tight end Rich McGeorge, a #1 pick in 1970, and Green Bay was up by 7. Hunter had hopes of an early rout when he found number 46 Leland Glass sprinting free, but the rookie Glass could not complete the play. But Hunter returned to the porous right side of the Browns' defense, and this time it appeared he had found extraordinary success in the person of number 36, the welcome addition MacArthur Lane. Lane not only outstepped Mike Howell to the end zone, he also stepped out of bounds along the way, and the Packers were forced to settle for a long field goal try. Chester Marco's attempt was blocked by Jerry Shirk and recovered by Clarence Scott, who completed the 55-yard turnabout touchdown play. But Hunter had the big play when he needed it, this time hooking up with Leland Glass for a 31-yard advance. And then, off the play pass action, he coupled with number 81, Rich McGeorge, for the go-ahead score. But for Green Bay, the best moments came when their second draft pick, number 13, Chester Marco, stuck shoe leather into pigskin, a feat he accomplished properly 4 times, separating Green Bay from Cleveland 26-10. In Green Bay last week, the parking lot was jammed as Packer fans turned out to see their green and gold go up against the silver and black Raiders from Oakland. Packer coach Dan Devine was seen for the first time in a while without his crutches. But he had an even better crutch in quarterback coach Bart Starr, who's been a big help in developing Scott Hunter, number 16. Hunter got the Pack moving early on a perfect strike to John Brockington. And Big Bad John continued to gobble up ground as he raced to the 6-inch line. then rammed it in the last 6 inches, and the Packers led 7-3. But when Green Bay threatened again, the Raiders came up with that one big play for which they're so famous. Fumble or lateral, whatever, Jack Tatum scooped up the football and raced 104 yards to break the record for fumble returns, which was held by Chicago Bears owner George Halas, and which had lasted for 49 years. Despite the Raiders' lightning bolt, the Packers were undaunted. Scott Hunter's throw to 13-year veteran receiver Carroll Dale met with pass interference along the way. The Packers then capitalized with another short Brockington touchdown to lead 14-13. But then Darryl Lamonica found his great rookie receiver from Villanova, number 49, Mike Siani. And Siani put the Raiders in excellent striking distance. Number 23, Charlie Smith, struck for 6 as the Raiders outlasted the Pack and evened their record at 1-1 and joined 3 other teams in first place in the AFC West. Raiders 20, Packers 14.
The spirit of the Packers was further tested in the second week when a muffed lateral was advanced 104 yards for a touchdown that was the margin of victory in a 20-14 loss to the Oakland Raiders.
The Dallas Cowboys were looking for their 3rd straight victory against the Green Bay Packers, but their early show of muscle soon dissipated before a rash of brutal mistakes. There was veteran cornerback Herb Adderley, number 26, feeling the fickle fingers of age. And there was punt returner Cliff Harris, who parlayed a fumble into a turnover. But mostly, the Cowboys fell victim to the swarming swirl of Packer gang tackling. Dallas quarterback Craig Morton often felt the might of the resurgent Packers. When Morton wasn't pressured, he fired aimless passes. This one was devoured by Al Matthews, number 29. On offense, Green Bay was led by their star sophomore running back John Brockington. Brockington's bullish runs netted him 81 yards rushing and a pretty touchdown that gave the Pack a 10-3 lead. The Cowboys rallied with the clutch catching and nifty running of wide receivers Lance Allworth, number 19, and Bob Hayes, number 22. The finishing touch was applied by Walt Garrison, who powered past Packer safety Jim Hill to a touchdown. But in the end, the world champions fell prey to their own errors. This interception by rookie Willie Buchanan, number 28, sealed the Cowboys' fate as Green Bay rode on the firm foot of Chester Marcol, whose 22-yard field goal gave the Packers a 16-13 victory.
Third week, the Packers unleashed John Brockington on the world champion Dallas Cowboys, and Green Bay enjoyed a decided advantage. Coach Devine's plans for a reinvigorated pass defense were rewarded as Craig Morton was dumped, harassed, and intercepted enough to throttle the Dallas attack. In order to put some teeth into the secondary, number 29, Al Matthews, was moved from right corner to strong safety. But the most remarkable change was the addition of the Defensive Rookie of the Year, number 28, Willie Buchanan, at left corner. Ken Ellis was moved to right corner, and he adapted with consummate athletic ease, while Jimmy Hill, acquired from San Diego, was successfully installed at free safety. Despite these multiple changes, the deep secondary gelled almost immediately, and it was the key factor in preserving a 16-13 victory over the Dallas Cowboys in Milwaukee. The next week, the Bears presented their ominous challenge. And the Packers' revitalized defense again came up with the big play, when number 83, Clarence Williams, scooped up a fumble and turned it into an early touchdown. But the game was not won until number 22, John Staggers, collected this deflected pass and carried it into the end zone.
Up in Green Bay, the Packers quarterback coach Bart Starr remarked, "The Chicago Bears may be winless, but up here they'll play like champions. They're a funny team." Funny, snorted Chicago's new head coach Abe Gibran. The Bears are about as funny as a punch in the face on a cold day. And it was on that note that the Bears and the Packers resumed the oldest rivalry in pro football. From the beginning, it was apparent that Chicago's cute blonde quarterback Bobby Douglas was going to have trouble making advances against a very mean green defense. Number 83, Clarence Williams, put it on the Bears' Jim Harrison, and the defense took control early. Defense registered the Packers' first score. When Jim Harrison fumbled, Clarence Williams recovered and outraced Bobby Douglas 21 yards for the touchdown. Scott Hunter brought the Packers right back, hitting tight end Lynn Garrett in his second year out of New Mexico Highlands for an apparent 55-yard touchdown. But Malcolm Snyder was detected holding, and the play was nullified. On the next series, in slow motion, Hunter lofted a pass for Dave Davis. Joe Taylor deflected the ball, and John Staggers made a hustling, diving catch and carry into the end zone, building a 17-3 halftime lead for Green Bay. But Bobby Douglas sent Cyril Pinder 2 yards to cap a 10-play drive in the third period, making it 17-10. And Douglas kept the Bears rolling in the second half, hitting number 43, George Farmer, for a 46-yard gain. From there, Douglas scrambled around left end for 2 yards and the tying touchdown. But the resurgence of Packer power is for real, and with 34 seconds remaining, Chester Marcole once again made his presence felt, booting through a 37-yarder, dividing the pack from the late rallying Bears 20-17.
The fifth week before a Monday night audience, the Packers quickly fell 17 points behind the Detroit Lions. When the defense turned stubborn and forced a Detroit punt, number 48 Ken Ellis turned in the turnabout play of this turnabout season. No play in the entire season was more important than this. In a game all but lost to the rival Lions, a team the Packers had beaten only once in the last 8 games, Ellis's run put Green Bay back on the hard road to contention. And from there, the rest of the Packers accepted the challenge. With careful guidance from the bench, Scott Hunter found Leland Glass for the go-ahead touchdown. And then everything fell in place. The defense was impenetrable. Number 39, Jimmy Hill, put the finishing touches on defensive coordinator Dave Hanner's masterful job of rebuilding a secondary in a single preseason. And the Lions were left flat on their backs after a 24-23 comeback victory by the Green Bay Packers. The 6th week, Green Bay lost a rain-soaked 10-9 decision to the Atlanta Falcons, and a key test with the Minnesota Vikings followed. The Packers controlled the ball and the game, but they could earn only a 13-13 tie. And then, late in the 4th quarter, Paul Krause intercepted a Scott Hunter pass to hand Green Bay its 2nd loss in a row.
The Vikings invaded Green Bay with the certain knowledge that one more loss would surely eliminate them in the NFC Central. The task at hand was the Packers, and both teams flashed some early muscle. While the Packers beat down Fran Tarkenton, number 88 Alan Page showed he had regained his all-pro form. To deny the Green Bay rush, Fran Tarkenton rolled out, but nothing could deny the Pack once they had the receiver in their sights. Green Bay forced the brakes early and cashed in on them on the running and receiving of all-purpose back John Brockington, number 42. Green Bay led 10-0 on a field goal and a perfect pass from Scott Hunter to old reliable Carroll Dale. The Packers moved easily at times in the 2nd half, but they could manage only one more field goal.
The next week, Scott Hunter was on target and on the scoreboard early with this runaway bomb to John Brockington. Number 42, Brockington scored his 2nd and 3rd touchdowns of the game on foot to give Green Bay a big advantage. Steve Spurrier then began to find Gene Washington with the big ones, and the 49ers challenged. In the dying seconds, Ken Ellis shut off San Francisco's last hope with this interception, and the Packers had their 3rd victory over a playoff-bound team, defeating the 49ers 34-24.
With John Brody injured, both he and Bart Starr were watching Steve Spurrier. After 6 years in the league, number 11 is still inexperienced, but he amassed 49 points the previous week against Atlanta, reviving San Francisco's sagging playoff hopes. Meanwhile, the resurgent Green Bay Packers were badly in need of a victory after 2 defeats, and their hopes were pinned to Scott Hunter, a quarterback of only 2 years' seasoning. Hunter and the Pack depend on a dominating running game, and in their second series, MacArthur Lane established that with a 24-yard burst up the middle. Then in a 3rd-and-1 situation, echoing his coach Bart Starr, Hunter hit John Brockington on a 48-yard play, and the Packers went up by 7. San Francisco returned 69 yards in 9 plays, with Vic Washington sweeping 2 yards to tie it at the end of the first quarter. But a Brockington explosion made it 14-7 in the 3rd period. Gaining 30 of 133 yards he would collect on 16 carries, Brockington burst free to score his 2nd touchdown of the day. They call him the Crazed Camel for his running style. And in the 3rd period, Brockington scored his 3rd touchdown after a 14-yard camel walk around left end. The mean green defense overruled the 49ers offense for 3 quarters, causing a paralysis of mistakes. This Vic Washington fumble set up a Chester Marcole field goal and a 24-10 Packer lead. Then, almost as if forced to do so, the 49ers forgot their plans for sustaining an offense and went for the big play. Gene Washington stepped out for a 62-yard catch and carry, closing the score to 24-17. A repeat of the play shows that Spurrier was well protected while waiting for Washington to beat number 28, rookie cornerback Willie Buchanan. And a perfect go and throw is still the most exciting play in pro football. But Gene Washington, in his 4th year out of Stanford, was not finished. After a Packer field goal, Spurrier found number 18 open over the middle. And 17 yards later, the score was Green Bay 27, San Francisco 24. Finally, with only 32 seconds remaining, the Pack iced a game they seemingly had won in the 3rd quarter. Number 48, Ken Ellis, picked off a Spurrier sideline pattern, and Green Bay had a much-needed 34-24 victory to stay tied for the lead in the NFC Central with the Detroit Lions.
The 9th week, the Packers traded bruises with the Bears before winning their 6th game of the season.
Linebackers Dave Robinson and Ray Nitschke are all that is left of the old Packer dynasty, but the Pack is back and following the footsteps of number 42, John the Crazed Camel Brockington. The new Packers renewed the oldest rivalry in pro football with the hated Chicago Bears. A bad snap from center cost the Bears dearly early in the game. The 18-yard loss forced Chicago to give up the ball at their own 24. John Brockington rammed up the middle for 12 and around right end for 12 more, and the Packers led 7-0. Bobby Douglas brought Chicago back, sparking a drive with this 26-yard keeper. On the 8th play of the 79-yard drive, Cyril Pinder slammed 4 yards over right tackle to make it 7-7. On the ensuing kickoff, number 37, Ike Thomas, almost went coast to coast, but settled for a trip to the Chicago 11-yard line, setting up Scott Hunter's 1-yard sneak for a touchdown. But that was the highlight of the game for number 16, Hunter. His 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and no pass completions stunted the Green Bay attack. Number 32, Charlie Ford, began the second half with this interception. And on Green Bay's next series, ex-Packer Bob Jeter picked off Hunter again, this time setting up a 38-yard Mac Percival field goal. When Hunter tried his legs, he was put down soundly with a hit by number 30, Jimmy Gunn, a hit which eventually kept a woozy Scott Hunter on the bench. Number 17, rookie Jerry Taggy, replaced Hunter, but the Bears had shut down the Packer offense. Holding the crazed Camel to 70 yards and 19 carries, they limited the Packers' total offense to 170 yards. At length, MacArthur Lane powered around left end for 35 yards, setting up the first of 2 Chester Marcole field goals in the second half. Marcole's second boot came after number 89, Dave Robinson, stripped Bobby Douglas of the ball, and number 87, Alden Roche, recovered it for the Pack. Although the Packers' offense managed only 2 field goals in the second half, only 4 pass completions and 8 first downs in the game, they held on to beat the Bears 23-17. Their victory, coupled with the Lions' defeat, left Green Bay alone at the top of the NFC Central, a serious contender for the first time in 5 years.
The Houston Oilers may have carried their youth movement a bit too far. But last Sunday, the last-place Oilers gave one of their better efforts against the Green Bay Packers. The Oilers' defense closed the Packers' usual avenue to victory off, number 42, John Brockington. So Green Bay detoured its expressway down a smaller route known as number 36, MacArthur Lane. Lane gained 125 yards and scored the only touchdown the Packers' offense could muster. Actually, the Packers were carried to their 7th win in 10 on the backs of their special teams. After a scoreless first quarter, Dan Pastorini outkicked his coverage with a 60-yard punt. And number 22, John Staggers, outran it 85 yards to a touchdown. One series later, Packer punter Ron Whidbey outdid Pastorini, a 68-yarder without using his feet. The fake punt and pass to Dave Davis gave Green Bay 2 early scores from its special teams, and that was the margin of difference. The fury of the reborn Packer defense did the rest. Bob Brown punctuated the defense's performance with a safety as Green Bay's 23-10 victory kept them ahead of both the Lions and Vikings in the NFC Central.
Streaking now, Green Bay laid waste to the Houston Oilers in the Astrodome, and all facets of the team contributed points to the victory. On attacking special squads, number 22, John Staggers, broke off the longest punt return of the year. The defensive special team scored when punter Ron Whitby hit Dave Davis with an extraordinary touchdown pass. MacArthur Lane powered for 126 yards rushing and added this touchdown to the account. And the defense scored when big number 78 Bob Brown dropped Dante Pastorini in the end zone. If any one man held the key to the resurgent Packer defense, it was Bob Brown.
Super Bowl hopes are sky high in Washington, but everybody's got their feet on the ground. Redskin fans and players alike are taking each game one at a time, savoring the season, enjoying their own enthusiasm. For Stuffed with Ice Cream and Goodwill for All but their next opponent, the Redskins' holiday season began in September. And after 9 victories, only one more over the big tough Green Bay Packers would secure their second playoff berth in 2 years under George Allen. But on the first play of this game, number 43 Larry Brown fumbled and Green Bay had a break, which might have won the game outright for the Packers. 4 plays later, Green Bay came away with nothing when Chester Marcole's field goal attempt was blocked by Ron McDowell. In the second quarter, little number 37 Pat Fisher intercepted a Scott Hunter floater, and Washington had the ball at the Green Bay 37. Five plays later, Larry Brown wheeled into the end zone, and Washington was in front to stay. On their next series, Billy Kilmer hit Jerry Smith with a 25-yard touchdown pass. The half ended with Washington leading 14-6. Jerry Taggy replaced an injured Scott Hunter. And Washington had a break when Dave Davis dropped this breakaway pass on the way to an easy touchdown. But MacArthur Lane brought the Packers close when he banged over in the fourth period. Billy Kilmer then drove 78 yards in 10 plays, picking an injury-deleted Packer secondary like an old turkey carcass. With Jimmy Hill and Ken Ellis out of the game, Charlie Taylor finally caught the deciding touchdown. The consistent Washington defense then put down the hard-nosed Packers. And in the end, the Packers and Jerry Taggy sat beaten 21-16 at the bottom of RFK Stadium. And Dyron Talbot and the Redskins celebrated at least a wild card invitation to the playoffs.
For here in the trenches, the Packers' improvement was most dramatic. And here, this most underrated lineman waged and finally won his battle for all-pro recognition. Against the Washington Redskins, the delicate mechanism of pass defense was thrown out of balance when right corner Ken Ellis was forced from the game with an injury. And Bill Kilmer exploited this opportunity to win the game, cashing the last touchdown passes allowed by the Packers in 1972, tying a Green Bay record of only 7 scoring passes yielded in a season originally set in 1966.
Last week, the Lions came roaring into Green Bay, and like big bad wolves, they were ready to huff and puff and blow the Pack down. But they didn't so much as stir a zephyr until the last 3 seconds of the game, when Bill Munson to Ron Jesse accounted for all the Detroit points. Until then, although the teams huffed and puffed and bled equally, the Packers proved they wanted the victory more than the Lions. So it was the fine Green Bay defense that was blowing people down. Even the usually sure-handed Larry Walton, number 49, was as intimidated as one little pig going to market. And when the Lions blew it, number 48, Ken Ellis, was there to recover a fumble or to steal a tipped pass and set up a touchdown. Number 16, quarterback Scott Hunter, ran the ball in for one Green Bay score. However, the Lions' worst mauling came at the hands of number 42, John Brockington, who was stopped on this play by number 20, Lem Barney. And although Barney proved to be the only silver lining in Detroit's cloudy afternoon, he couldn't do it all himself. But he did try, as on this play he stripped the blocker of his senses and made the tackle. But then John Brockington blew a few houses down and could have even demolished one made of bricks as he gave the Packers a 33-7 win over the Lions. Gave a few signs in Green Bay some validity, for the moment anyway.
For the Central Division was now a wide open free-for-all. But the return to the secondary of number 48, Ken Ellis, spiked the Lions' attack, and Green Bay scored an impressive 33-7 victory.
Last year was Dan Devine's first as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. His team finished 4-8-2. Last Sunday, he was preparing to deprive the Minnesota Vikings of the NFC Central Division title for the first time in 5 years. Both the Packers and the Vikings' hopes live on defense. But a little too much defense got the Pack in trouble early. And an interference call against number 48, Ken Ellis, gave the Vikings life at the Green Bay 22. Five plays later, Fran Tarkenton handed to number 83, Stu Voigt, on an inside end around, and the Vikings led 7-0. Number 39, Jimmy Hill's protestations went unsatisfied. But the Packers reestablished momentum with a 15-play sequence in the last 3 minutes of the half. Number 84, Carroll Dale, received this pass as the Pack moved with blended running and passing. Number 42, John Brockington, burst to the Viking 3, but a penalty one play later put the ball on Minnesota's 20. With 16 seconds remaining, Scott Hunter's pass intended for Carroll Dale was intercepted by Paul Krause as the Vikings held on to win the first half 7-0. But beginning the third period, MacArthur Lane cut back 37 yards across a half-frozen chewy gridiron to set up a 29-yard Chester Marcole field goal. But it was the defense that brought the Packers to life. When Bill Brown fumbled after receiving a Fran Tarkenton pass, number 53, Fred Carr, claimed the gift, and 6 plays later, Scott Hunter snuck 1 yard for Green Bay's first touchdown. On the next series, Tarkenton's perfect pass was juggled by John Gilliam and picked off by number 28, Willie Buchanan. Four plays later, number 36, MacArthur Lane, drove 3 yards over Carl Eller, and Green Bay led 17-7. On the next series, Green Bay's candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year, Willie Buchanan, again intercepted, and 2 fourth-quarter field goals by Chester Marcole gave the Packers a 23-7 victory. Green Bay had many heroes this Sunday, but a large share of the victory belonged to John Brockington and number 36, MacArthur Lane. Each shredded the Purple Gang for more than 100 yards, while accounting for 214 yards of ball control rushing offense. It was the first taste of glory for the Pack since 1967. And with 7 rookies among 18 new faces, this victory to clinch a Central Division title represents a monumental rebuilding job in just 2 years under Dan Devine. And for this new team, there is a fine old tradition and an honored description. The Packers are tough.
Ignoring the high hopes of Packer backers, Dan Devine knew that the Pack would not truly be back until the mighty Vikings were beaten. And each of his young Packers understood that more than playoff money was at stake in this game. This was a test of character. Number 83, Clarence Williams, responded with his best performance, dogging the steps of Francis Tarkenton, leading the youthful Green Bay defense in their charge to a championship. And just as Dan Devine had planned it through the darkest days of 1971, the Packer defense was now very real and very earnest, with perhaps the finest matched set of cornerbacks in pro football. Fran Tarkenton and the Minnesota Vikings were beginning to unravel under pressure. When the Vikings cracked, John Brockington and MacArthur Lane poured through the Purple Gang, eating up huge chunks of yardage on their way to a decisive 23-7 victory in Minnesota. For the first time in 5 years, the Green Bay Packers were divisional champions. And for the man most responsible, for Dan Devine, it was undeniably a crowning moment.
Things have been shaky and frustrating for the Saints all year. This young lady only added fuel to the fires of frustration. Last week against the Packers, it was frustration even on kickoffs, as Margene Atkins, number 26, so ineptly displayed. There was frustration written all over the face of Archie Manning as he got a close-up of the Green Bay defense. And even when the Saints did right, it turned out wrong and frustrating as the Ron Whitby to Ray Nitschke combo hit for a first down. Scott Hunter, number 16, finished the job, and Green Bay was on the way. Number 36, MacArthur Lane, provided ground power as he gunned his way through the New Orleans defense. Then Jerry Taggy, riding behind a dark green wave, rolled in for the score. But just as it looked like the Pack had nothing to kick about, they were forced to punt. The punt was somewhat misplaced, and the Saints' Richard Neal, number 87, turned it into a New Orleans score. On a repeat, we can see that Ron Whitby's punt hit Jim Carter, number 50, and the Saints gobbled up the score. The unusual Charlie put some life into the Saints' offense, and Archie hit Bill Butler, number 38, for a touchdown. Manning then whistled one to Margene Atkins, who made a good catch despite some hangers-on. Then it was Manning to Dave Parks, number 83, but the Saints' comeback was too little too late, and they ended their season of frustration with a 30-20 loss to the team that's back where the Saints have never been.
In 1972, rookie Chester Markle kicked 33 field goals, as many as his 9 predecessors had managed to convert in the past 5 years. And this statistic, as much as any other, contributed to the resurgence of Packer power. But Markle's most memorable boot was blocked in the 14th game against the Saints, giving Ron Whitby another chance to air his arm, this time to the venerable Ray Nitschke, for an important 34-yard gain on the way to Green Bay's 10th victory of the season. Coach Devine's return to fundamentals put fun back in pro football in Green Bay. And this agreeable air of good feeling carried the Packers straight to RFK Stadium, to their playoff date with the Washington Redskins. It was a brutally fought football game. The Washington Redskins won by heroically blunting the offensive thrusts of number 36, MacArthur Lane, and John Brockington. And while Washington swelled with joy for their over-the-hill gang, the young Packers had flown their colors high, and their future was clearly championship gold on a field of green. Backs, John Brockington, and MacArthur Lane. MacArthur Lane led the pack in pass receiving, and as a runner, he raced for 821 yards in 177 attempts. Number 42, John Brockington, became the only man to ever gain more than 1,000 yards in each of his first 2 seasons. And just as Ken Bowman was the pride of the Packers in the offensive line, and as Bob Brown ignited the defense, the entire team took heart from the strength and character of John Brockington. Together, Brockington and Lane gained 1,848 yards rushing and were the best running tandem in the NFC. So these are the Green Bay Packers, Dan Devine's team, a team born of an old pride in a new image, built by astute trades and superior drafts, mingled together with veterans, with men who know the price and who paid it, to reclaim the proud heritage of the Green Bay Packers in the year the Pack came back.